Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 2 of The Jaxon Show. I'm your host, Jaxon Simon. I'm a football enthusiast, so this is going to be a primarily football podcast with some basketball and baseball mixed into it. But today we're going to be talking primarily football, specifically some NFL news, some college football rankings, and of course we're going to be talking about some new features coming to The Jaxon Show in this second season. So without further ado, I'm going to just jump straight into it. I'm going to talk about some new features to The Jaxon Show. Obviously, first thing you're going to realize is the face camera. That was something that was highly requested by some of the listeners to The Jaxon Show. Something, kind of stimulating. Last year we had the little blank screen, so we're not going to be doing that anymore. So you're going to be able to see my face, and, hopefully this is going to be more interactive for the fans out there watching this show. Also, we're going to have a ticker at the bottom of the screen, kind of describing what I'm going to be talking about in the episode. So at this particular moment, the ticker is going to be talking about the ticker. And so, just, I'm excited to show that as well. Also, some background music. I'm going to try and mix in some music. Obviously, last year, didn't really have an intro. It kind of faded off towards the end of the show. So hopefully this year we're going to be able to bring that back. And so hopefully we're going to do all that. Like I said, background music, we'll try to mix that in there if we can get it in. Hopefully I can work some background music into, so this doesn't feel hopefully it feels like just a chill vibe. Also, don't forget to comment and subscribe to The Jaxon Show on YouTube. But let's jump into our second segment of today's show. We're going to be talking about the NFL updates and some camp news. Last night we had 3 preseason games. We had Eagles, Bengals, Ravens, Colts, and last but not least, the Raiders and the Seahawks. I have not watched film on any of those games yet. I plan on watching just straight preseason highlights at the same time, and hopefully we can get that out by next week. I did see some news. Anthony Richardson broke his finger in the first game. I did watch a clip from that game, and I saw some media experts breaking that down, and they just kind of said it was a simple blitz, right? Your protection was out in front, and so basically the defender that comes in, he comes in unprotected, and he hits Richardson, and I thought that maybe the ball would come out, but it didn't. He hung on to it, and he exited the game immediately after that play. Hopefully, Anthony Richardson is okay, but the reports are that he might not be ready for or that he is a day-to-day. He might be ready for week 1. He might not. Some other big news is Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin both requested trades. This is big news, especially for the rest of the NFC East. I think the question is, where does Micah Parsons go? Basically, if you haven't heard the story, it was at the beginning of the offseason, Micah Parsons had decided to re-sign or try to get an extension done with the Dallas Cowboys, but the Dallas Cowboys negotiated with him kind of without his agent, right? And so that things didn't go well. Overall, Micah Parsons didn't hear much from the Cowboys organization. And at the end of it all, they offered him a lowball contract, and he kind of wants out of Dallas now. And I feel like he's done with the Cowboys. At the same time, though, I feel like Micah Parsons will stay in Dallas. Like, he's probably not going to leave. But I think that this whole situation has really... just Jerry Jones has really messed this situation up for Micah Parsons and for the Cowboys defense, because looking at that defense, the defensive line is okay, the secondary is okay, but there's nothing outside on this team that makes this team really great. Micah Parsons made this team great, and I feel like either he re-signs with the Cowboys before week 1 or he gets traded. And I keep saying, Micah Parsons, don't worry about it. He'll get a deal done. It'll reset the defensive edge market, because remember how long it took for CeeDee Lamb to get a contract last year. It was close to the beginning of the preseason. Remember how long it took for Dak Prescott to get a contract extension last year? It was week 1 of last season, and he signed a contract extension. But Micah Parsons made it clear that he doesn't want to be there, especially after Jerry Jones got to make comments that were, I think Micah Parsons found offensive, because he talked about his injury history, and Micah Parsons did have injury. He does have a history with injuries. He was injured a lot over the past couple of seasons, so he has never been really healthy. And so, the statements that Jerry Jones made weren't completely inaccurate, but they were offensive. And so because of that, Micah Parsons, I think he'll probably re-sign with the Dallas Cowboys, but I think that Micah has decided that he doesn't want to be in Dallas anymore. I think that decision that he's made is final, and so he's probably going to hold out, going to stop associating with the team until they figure it, and then, they finally cut him or trade him, or until he goes to a different team. Rumors are going out that he's going to go to the Eagles, the Bills, the Panthers, the Rams. If he goes to any of these places, I doubt it. I don't think he's going to get traded anywhere. If he does go somewhere, I hope it's the Commanders, because when I look at the Commanders, I don't see a defense. Defense is kind of shaky with Washington. So, hopefully hopefully the Commanders can scoop up Micah Parsons, but I don't think that the Cowboys are going to deal him within the division. So that might be a no-go. The NFL and with Terry McLaurin. It's just another contract dispute with Terry McLaurin. I feel like we've been over this for the past couple of seasons. Terry McLaurin wants a new deal, and it does not seem like the Commanders want to give that to him, and it's just sad, Everybody's talking about the Terry situation, like, you have to keep him. You have to, you need to keep Terry McLaurin, and I really don't think you do. I think that the connection between Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin was strong last year, but his relationship with Deebo Samuel, I think, will develop over time to where, you've got this new receiver now situated in your offense. I think it'll just be as new, good as new, basically. But I don't think Terry McLaurin is a must-have for the Washington Commanders, but Micah Parsons is definitely a must-have for the Dallas Cowboys defense. I think the defense for the Dallas Cowboys is just kind of mid, like it was last year. You bring in Matt Eberflus, who was not really known for having who had some of the best defenses that he ever had in Chicago. I really think of Matt Eberflus as the guy that kind of protected Caleb Williams, because that first game that he played, he didn't score an offensive touchdown. The defense and the special teams unit scored all the points. So I think Matt Eberflus is a good defensive coordinator. So he can help improve that, but he can't do it all himself. He's got to have Micah Parsons back. And with Terry McLaurin, like I said, the Commanders, I don't think really need him, although he is pivotal to what Washington has been built, kind of. He's just a nice little bonus. I think that over time, like I said before, Deebo Samuel, he'll build chemistry with him. He'll build chemistry with some other receivers on that team. So I don't think Terry McLaurin is a must-have, but he's really good. He is really good. I don't have any places where Terry McLaurin would go, but one place I think he could go is the Packers. Packers need a wide receiver. Their wide receiver room has injury history, and Terry McLaurin is one of the more consistent receivers. He's gone for 1,000 yards a couple of times. But overall, I think that Terry McLaurin, he will play in Week 1, and he will be wearing a Commander's jersey, so I don't think any of these players will get traded by the time Week 1 begins. Also, some other NFL news. The NFL has banned smelling salts. I've seen former players talk about this, and how smelling salts kind of get you up. They get you energized for the game and excited. And I feel like that, adrenaline. I don't have a really stance on this. I'm just sharing it with you all. But if you have a stance on smelling salts, don't forget to comment that down below. And final thing, Caleb Williams is going to sit out Week 1 of the preseason. I'm not sure if we expected him to play, but Ben Johnson has announced that he will not play. So we're going to see just kind of the rest of the Bears team. And Bears have 3 other quarterbacks on the roster, or at least that's what I'm seeing right now. But this Bears team can be very good. I think it just depends defensively, which looks to be really good. The offense really can't be much worse than it was last year. It really can't. Also, in Chargers news, I'm sure most of you know by now, but if you don't, I am a Los Angeles Chargers fan. I do support the Lions as well. But the Chargers this offseason, they re-signed Mike Williams. I bring this up because it was revealed that he had retired this offseason, and the Chargers brought back Keenan Allen a couple of days ago. How will this impact the Chargers? I think it looks better. Granted, I'm a Chargers fan, and I believe in Quentin Johnson. He had, I think he had a ton of touchdowns last year. He had 8 touchdowns, if I'm correct. Led the team in receiving touchdowns. Last year, that was more than Ladd McConkey had. And when Keenan Allen and Justin Herbert played together, I feel like that connection is kind of special. It feels to me like a Goff St. Brown connection, or a Stafford and Cooper Kupp or Megatron. It just feels like these two are destined to play together. And when the Chargers released, or I think it was a trade, they traded away Keenan Allen to the Bears. I just kind of felt that, he could, I understood why they did it. It was for financial reasons. Keenan Allen was way too expensive. I think heading into this year, they would have had to pay him, but they brought him back and for less money, so it works out all in all. But the other thing that didn't really work out, Rashawn Slater is injured. Reports have come out that he's out for the year, and that's definitely going to hurt the Chargers' offensive line. Just signed an extension too, and that's terrible news for the Chargers. But I'm sure they are going to bounce back. Well, I think it's the time that we've all been waiting for. My top 25 college football teams. The AP poll will be released this Monday. Hopefully this episode will come out before then. But this Monday is when the AP poll top 25 college football teams are released. And here's how I'm going to kind of work this out throughout the year when it comes to my college football rankings. So each week I'm going to talk about my top 25 college football schools. Obviously I will have a playoff predictions episode coming up. But here's how this is kind of going to work. I'm going to list my top 25 teams. I'm going to tell you why I put them there. I'm going to tell you how good they are, what they have coming in store. And also I will have 5 teams that almost made the cut, that have the talent to make the cut, but just didn't make the cut. I call them the honorable mentions. We're going to start with number 30. These are all going to be in order. I'm going to look at Nebraska. I think Nebraska has the potential to be really good this year. Secondary looks good. But I think that what Matt Rule has done at this program in Nebraska is really good. What he did with Baylor was even better. He had the Baylor Bears looking outstandingly fantastic. He had them competing for a national title in his 3rd season there. And that's kind of how he got to the that's kind of how he got to the level that's kind of how he got to the NFL level. Couldn't really think of it. I was drawing a blank there. But their schedule is super winnable. Toughest games are going to be Michigan at home. You don't really go anywhere until late in the year where you play at Penn State, so this is a very winnable schedule. Outside of Michigan and Penn State, you got to take on Michigan State in year 2 of the Jonathan Smith and Aiden Childs era. You've got at UCLA, who, if you have to go to UCLA, that seems like it's going to be tough. And they play USC, who we'll see further on this list. But I don't really see them facing any other ranked teams, especially any teams, any difficult matchups coming up this year. And I think that this team's going to be really good, especially considering that this is Matt Rule's third season with Nebraska, and he's one of the greatest developing head coaches that I've seen in recent years. Number 29 is going to be Utah. And Utah is here because, honestly, I think Utah is better than what they showed us last year. They lost a ton of close games in the midst of their 7-game losing streak. I think the biggest loss that they had was versus Arizona, or it was either versus Arizona or at Colorado. Those were their two biggest losses of the year. But other than those two games, all of those games were 1 to 2 scores, very winnable games last year for Utah. This team has been very good, and I think that that they can be better than good this year. Defense looks good, offense looks good. Just got to stay healthy. Utah had a big problem last year. They were not healthy. Cam Rising was not healthy. So this team, I think, in order for Utah to be successful, in order for them to actually make the top 25, this team has to be healthy. Looking at the schedule, at UCLA week 1, a winnable game, but not great start. You play Arizona State. You avoid Iowa State, which is good. Texas Tech is going to be tough. It's going to be tough. You go to West Virginia, and at the end of the year, you go to Baylor, to Kansas State. Baylor's a sneaky good team. I didn't put them in the honorable mention, but I had them in there for a minute. But Baylor's a sneaky good team, and a team that could potentially shock the college football world, and also they can also shock the Big 12 this season. Let's not forget the biggest game against BYU at BYU. Speaking of BYU, they're 28. Any team, and I'm just going to be honest with this, any team that returns your starting quarterback, you've got a chance to, in my opinion, you've got a chance to make a bowl game and improve on what you were last year. BYU was 11-2 last year. This team doesn't return many starters, but they do return 5 of the offense, 3 on the defense. 72-43 is their head coach's overall record. Kalani Sitake, he's really good. BYU is the team to watch. I think the defense could be a little bit better, especially late in the year. But they only lost 1-score games, and I feel like this team can be really good. Schedule-wise, you go to Iowa State, not good. To Texas Tech, also not good. But other than those 2 games, not much else. This team, sneaky team to watch, BYU. Undefeated start last year. Couldn't end up coming out of nowhere, beating your favorite team. At number 24, or not number 24, number 27, Louisville. They got USC transfer Miller Moss, one of the best defenses last year, and they also lost a ton of close games, which shows you how good of a defense this team was, how good of an offense this team had. Toughest games this year at Miami versus Boston College, who could also be a sneaky good team in college football this year. They host Clemson, and they go to SMU at the end of the season. 8, maybe 9 wins this year for this team. They're very talented, they're very good, and they could make a run at the ACC title this year. It's just that there are a couple of other teams standing in their way. a couple other teams that we will actually see inside the top 25. Not much else to say about Louisville. Louisville, like I said, watch out for Isaac Brown because he could be. I expect him to be an All-American in the ACC at the running back position. That's how good he is. 26. Here we go, 26. This was a team that had a lot of praise last year. High expectations for this team. We talked about this team. We said, well, they're very good. They have a good defensive coordinator. This could be the year that they turn it around. This could be the year that they make the playoff. This could be the year that they win it all. I'm sure you think of Iowa, but I'm not. I'm talking about USC. This team did not have a great end of the season. But they did win 3 out of the last 4. They had to play teams like Michigan, Penn State, Notre Dame, and Texas A&M. Not to mention they started the year against LSU, but they won that game. Looking at the schedule this year, it does not look like it gets much harder. You open out the season with a couple of easy games. Missouri State, Georgia Southern, and at Purdue. The schedule gets tough when you have to go to Illinois and Notre Dame and Nebraska in the middle of the year. Not to mention they go to Oregon to end the season, but Michigan comes to them. What do we say about Lincoln Riley every year? We say if Lincoln Riley can get this defense straight, then this USC team can be really good. They hit the portal hard this offseason. They hit the portal hard. They got a lot of players out of the portal, and they only returned 2 starters. As a matter of fact, Lincoln Riley expects this to be the strength of USC this year, the defense. They bring back 2 starters, hit the portal hard, and they recruiting like nobody's watching. They brought a ton of linebackers and defensive linemen and defensive backs out of recruiting, a couple of 4 and 5 stars, so expect them to kind of be mixed in the rotation. But USC, their defense looks really good. Kind of expect USC to kind of make a jump here, hopefully. But like I said, schedule does not look easy. 7, maybe 8 wins potentially. But team looks good. And the offense, Jordan Maeva, Jacoby Lane. I have no problems with USC. We actually enter into the top 25, and we're going to start with Boise State. Now, here is one of the biggest problems I think everybody will have with Boise State. Ashton Genty's gone. So, the focal point of the offense was Ashton Genty. Doesn't matter. Maddox Madsen's back. They brought in Sire Gaines. Maddox Madsen, like we mentioned before, he returns. He threw for 23 touchdowns last year. They went the portal. Austin Bolt's going to have to step into a bigger role this year. They return back Latrell Caples. I feel like everybody and their mom is talking about Boise State to win the Mountain West. Boise State is going to be the add-in playoff team again, and it's I think it's a chance. There's a good possibility that they do it. Last year, they only lost 1 game of the regular season to Oregon at Oregon. This year, I feel like it's the same story. Rest of the pack, they play the Pac-12. No Oregon State, no Washington State, which is good. You go to Notre Dame, which is the only concern that I have for Boise State. But other than that, I think that they beat Boise State. I think Boise State could have the potential to be that additional team that makes the college football playoff, that group of 5 school to make the playoff. I don't see anybody else beating them. I think everybody else has too difficult of a schedule to do so. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the team that brought in the most recruits in college football this year. Texas Tech. Brought in the most recruits in the country to make this team better, and this team was already somewhat decent. They started the year off on a high note, but the defense got terrible. As a matter of fact, they were 132nd in the country in pass defense, 99th in sacks last year. Completely revamped the defensive line, revamped the majority of the secondary. They returned Mahorion. I hope I'm not pronouncing this wrong. Mahorion Horn and A.J. McCarthy. He's going to be the nickelback. This team in Texas Tech looks very good. Look at the schedule. Not very difficult. At Utah, which we already mentioned previously. At Arizona State. And then they host BYU. But this team looks really good. Really good team. At 23, I had a little bit of fun with 23. And I know a lot of people are going to criticize this move. But hear me out. I have 23. I have Ole Miss. Ole Miss returns 2 starters from last year. An unexperienced offensive line, unexperienced secondary, and defensive line. So this really, back-to-back 10-win seasons last year, which was, back-to-back 10-win seasons over the last 2 years with Lane Kiffin, and that's great. We talk about Kirby Smart in Georgia building the next SEC powerhouse. Ole Miss has the chance to do that this year. I think Ole Miss is Alabama in a way where Jaxon Dart is Jalen Hurts, where he didn't necessarily go to another school and lose his job. But because he had the dual threat ability, he goes early in the NFL draft. And then you have Austin Simmons, the left-handed guy that's supposed to step into the next role at Ole Miss. I think a lot of people have Ole Miss ranked higher. I don't. This team has little to no experience, especially on the offensive line. Although I do like Harrison Wallace as well. I do like Harrison Wallace. But how are you going to protect Austin Simmons to get the ball out? Because you can't do that if he's on his back. And so, last couple of seasons, what made this team so good was you had a good offensive line. Looking at the schedule, already I read it, trap game at Kentucky. This was a trap game last year. Kentucky wants the same thing again. They want another trap game. Rivalry game 2. Arkansas is difficult this year. They're a sneaky team. You host LSU. You go to Georgia, to Oklahoma. You host South Carolina. And then you take on Florida. Look, SEC this year is no joke. I don't know how many teams in the SEC I got ranked in my top 25 to start the year. But Ole Miss is in it. So, as a matter of fact, if you want to comment down below how many SEC teams I have ranked, please feel free to do so. But watch out for Harrison Wallace, the third, because he was really good with Penn State last year. Number 22 is an ACC team that is competing for the ACC title. It's SMU, the Mustangs. I have 8 SMU ranked really low because, I don't know, last year I just feel like they played a weak schedule. Schedule wasn't that hard. You lost to BYU last year and Clemson and Penn State. Schedule wasn't that hard last year, I'll be honest. But SMU, this year, I think the schedule is much, much more difficult. You play Baylor, you go to Clemson, it was Miami. Based off those 3, you go to Boston College. I'm sorry, I didn't want to disrespect Boston College there. But, man, this team's good. The schedule is hard. And looking at the O-line, bringing back 3 offensive linemen. Not to mention you got a tight end that's coming back. Like I said, any team that brings their quarterback back has a chance to compete for a bowl game. SMU got in the playoff last year, and I think a lot of people kind of were like, should they really be in the playoff this year? Shouldn't it be Alabama? It probably should have been. Would have been more entertaining if Alabama went to Penn State. They always give a team a run for their money in the playoff, especially with Kalen DeBoer. But and then two returning starters on defense. SMU. I think a lot of people are picking SMU to make the ACC championship game. I'm not especially high or fond of SMU. I put them low. 21, Tennessee. Rocky Top, oh Rocky Top. I put Rocky Top at 21. So, if we could take a little time out and talk about the Nico situation for a second. I don't understand what happened, but I think it was just, and here's my spin on it. Nico wanted more money, and because Tennessee refused to pay him this money, he decided to transfer out of Tennessee as a freshman. And as a sport, in the sport of college football, this is the most disappointing thing. Because, in my opinion, there's no loyalty in college football. I feel like you spend 1 year at a program and just immediately transfer, like Nico did this past offseason, and you don't take time to develop. I feel like people like Will Levis, yes, the portal worked for them, but only because he sat behind Sean Clifford the entire time. And turns out they might have been on the same level in the NFL. So, but there's no loyalty in college football anymore. I feel like if you're a player like Bo Prabula, you transfer out of Penn State because you're tired of sitting on the bench when the opportunity is there for you to develop and become a better quarterback. I feel like you should take that opportunity. And eventually, you could have become the starting quarterback at the program that you're at. Granted, I think that because Drew Aller decided to come back for another season, I think that's probably why Bo Prabula decided to transfer out of Penn State. But it made sense for him to transfer out for that reason, but there's just no loyalty. I think if you're a guy like Arch Manning and you decide to commit to a program where there's already a quarterback and it's a high, prestigious program, you work your way up and you earn it. That's the kind of game that I think I want. That's the kind of sport that we should have. That we should have the sport where you're not going to leave because of playing time or NIL or anything like that, but you should stay because you want to stay. You want to develop. You have loyalty to the program. That's the reason why you should stay. That's what college football should be built on. But it's all about the NIL now. It's all about the money. Joey Aguilar, former App State quarterback, transferred to UCLA in the spring, but then transferred to Tennessee after Nico Iamaleava decided to transfer to UCLA. And so, those two kind of swapped. Some would say it was a trade, but I wouldn't call it that because the players decided to leave on their own. But anyway, I like Tennessee at 21 because their defense is really good. Really good defense. You bring back Jermod McCoy. He returns off the ACL. You bring back some of your starters up front, although JPJ is not coming back. You got some experience with the guys up front. And obviously this rotation is going to be really good. You brought in some transfers. And the linebacker core looks good. Secondary, looks really good. I like Tennessee. But I still want to see Joey Aguilar first. I want to know what the guy looks like. 20? I got Oklahoma. This is the team I think could be a sleeper. This is the team that I think could be the best team in the SEC this year. First things first, Oklahoma had one of the worst offenses in college football last year. I would just be honest with that. This was one of the worst offenses in college football last year. Yet, they hit the portal hard. They return 3 starters on the offensive line. They go out, they get Jay Knott, they get John Mateer. Deion Burks returns. I feel like if you kept Nick Anderson, you probably would have been better. Probably would have been a better, how do I say this? Offense. But the defense is going to be really good for Oklahoma this year, and Brent Venables is going to return to calling plays. That looks really good, and plus you return 6 starters in the defense. That's always good, including Robert Spears Jennings. I like the guy. I think he's really good. And so, yeah, Oklahoma, sleeper team to watch in college football this year. Schedule-wise, Michigan at home is going to be a tough game against Texas in Dallas. That's also going to be a tough game. You go to South Carolina, to Tennessee. And then, toughest game of your year at Alabama. And then you host LSU. Alabama is going to be a ruckus environment for OU. But I think they'll get the job done. And like I said, I have complete faith in Oklahoma. I think they have a chance to be that team in the SEC this year. Yeah, Oklahoma. I like OU this year. So we'll see about OU. Moving on to the 19th team on the list, Indiana. What's to like about this Indiana team? Well, first off, the schedule. I mean, the schedule's cake soft. Toughest games, I'd say Illinois, Oregon, Penn State. You really got off the hook with the rest of the teams on this list. No Michigan, no Ohio State, no UCLA. Or they do play UCLA. No USC is what I meant. This is one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. They don't play anybody in the out-of-conference. So basically, easiest schedule in college football this year. But the 19th team, they bring back defense. Kirk Cignetti's a really good coach. He's going to continue to coach. He is really good. He brought in more guys, and he wins. This guy wins. He only has 37 career losses. 2 of those losses came last year. I trust in Kirk Cignetti. And Cignetti, I trust, I guess. But yeah, can these guys on the defensive side step up? Really, the biggest, I think, really with Indiana, the biggest thing that Indiana needs right now, I think, is for someone to kind of step up into that role that Curtis Rourke played last year. And I think Fernando Mendoza can be that guy. Roman Hemby is a beast. Transfers from Maryland. Go watch his highlights. He's a beast. I love Roman Hemby. I'm high on the guy. Transfers from Maryland to Indiana. He wants to play for Cignetti. I love the guy. And Elijah Surratt. He's got size. He's got speed. He's really good. I got Indiana at 19. 18 is going to go to Iowa State. And I was watching the Joe Klatt show, and I like what he said about Iowa State. He said, people have Iowa State higher on their lists. Some people have them lower on their lists. I like where I put Iowa State on my list, though. But basically, people vary with Iowa State because, hey, Iowa State, they bring back starters. They hit the portal very good. And this team, they bring back Rocco Becht, who is already might be the best quarterback in the program. No offense to Brock Purdy. Shout out Brock Purdy. But, Iowa State was really good last year. I have them at 18 because offensive line looks good. You bring back your quarterback, so they're going to be competing. Benjamin Brahmer is the new tight end. Back is back. I think that one of the biggest things that this team, biggest questions with this team is wide receiver. Really, it is. Wide receiver, really. Because you lose Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins. They were his top targets, and they kind of helped him last year. So they move on. Xavier Townsend transfers in, and I like this guy. I'm high on this guy. I'm also high on Daniel Jaxon. I believe this is the same Daniel Jaxon that played for the University of Georgia. If not, it might be a different Jaxon. I'm not sure, but I think the receiver room looks really good. I trust this guys. Now, I'm going to let you guys on a little secret. My road to glory for college football 26. I did a full year with this team. Heading into year 2. Texas A&M Aggies. It's fair to say that this team is properly rated at 17. It's fair to say that this team exceeded expectations last year. Because I don't think a lot of people had them competing for the SEC championship game last year. But this team returns a lot of those starters from a year ago. They return all 5 starters on the offensive line. The center is coming off of an ACL, so he might be benched a little bit, but they rotate those guys. But the defense looks really good as well. Linebacker Carr will lead the third. Oh my God, he is one of the best players in the country. If you want to be a better corner, watch his tape. I love Will Lee. His man-to-man is really good. His zone coverage is really good. I'm high on Texas A&M. I love Texas A&M right now. They're really good. 8 wins last year, and you look at the schedule, it's not even that hard. At Notre Dame is a winnable game. You take on Florida at home. Obviously, you have the big LSU game. That's going to be on the road, and then you go to Texas. 2 Texas and 2 LSU. Those are your 2 toughest games. I'm just going to leave Florida out of the conversation. Yeah, we'll come back to them later. But yeah, at LSU's tough. I think LSU, they're going to be throwing the football a lot this year. And at Texas, we'll see where I put Texas later on in this show. 16, Kansas State. Talk about Kansas State like this team is the best team in the Big 12. They're not. It's one team that's better than them. Okay, but we'll get to them in a minute. Avery Johnson's really good. Offensive line looks really good. Dylan Edwards, if you don't know who Dylan Edwards is, transfer from Colorado, worked with Coach Prime in Boulder. He transferred out of there last year. Was benched last year, had time to develop. Now he's in Manhattan, Kansas with the Kansas State Wildcats. And this team looks really good, if I'm being honest. Kansas State is not the best team in the Big 12. I think there's one team above them that's better than them. But this is going to be matchup. Week 0 in Ireland. I don't know why they keep sending teams to Ireland. I don't enjoy it. Just like I don't enjoy Week 0. But I'll watch this game just because college football's back on TV. Kansas State, Iowa State. 2 actually interesting teams instead of Notre Dame Navy. Remember that game in Ireland a couple of years ago in Week 0. This is actually an interesting game. This is a game to watch right here. Iowa State. 2 toughest games, Kansas State, Iowa. Right here, you've got it, Kansas State. That's might be toughest game kicking off against Iowa State. Then the schedule kind of cools down after that. You go to Baylor, host Texas Tech, take on Utah on the road in the year against Colorado. I think the team could be really good. But what do? I think that Kansas State this year can be dark horse for the playoff, but defense has got to be better than it was last year. This is a 9-win team, so they weren't bad, just weren't good enough to make the playoff or the Big 12 championship game. Number 15 on the list is South Carolina. I feel like a lot of people are high on Lenore Sellers, but I think the biggest question that I have for Lenore Sellers is, can he do it again? I don't know. But Nick Harbor's back, so that helps. Offensive line, 2 tackles are back. And then the rest of the O-line looks okay. The tight end, Michael Smith, looks really good. And South Carolina, I have no problem. I think that with South Carolina, throw the ball, yes, but also run the ball. Use Lenore Sellers as a runner. That might be one of the biggest keys to this year. We're going to see Lenore Sellers' arm, but if he's really good, we're obviously going to see Lenore Sellers' arm this year. If he's great, he'll understand how to fit throws in the tight windows, how to do this and how to do that. That's how we'll understand if he's great. But he's also going to be good by using his legs. That's how I know Lenore Sellers. That's how good I think he is. Number 14, I got the Michigan Wolverines. I just love talking about Michigan because every time I talk about Michigan, I talk about this. It's how Michigan last year, this team had one of the youngest, this was one of the worst offenses in all of college football. I'm going to just be honest. Worst, when we talk about terrible college football offenses, we talk about Iowa, we talk about Michigan. Those were the 2 worst college football offenses. This team was the third or 4th worst offense in college football last year. They were the 129th nationally ranked offense in 2024, averaging 286 yards per game. But this team has gotten better. Michigan's better. Why? Because of those guys that played last year. They're going to develop. And I can't remember how much I said this last year. Last year was a development year for Michigan. Okay? So this team was not supposed to be the best team in college football last year. They were not supposed to make another run at a national championship. You lost your head coach. You lost your offensive line. You lost your star running back. You lost your superstar quarterback. You lost a lot of things. Okay? You lost a lot of things. And one of the things you lost, your head coach, was game-changing. Okay? So, I look at Michigan, and I said last year, okay, this is not going to be the same Michigan team. They're highly ranked. They're ranked too high. This is a developmental year for Michigan. Even though the defense was really good. And the defense got better because of those guys that they worked in last year. Rashawn Betty being one of those guys. He's one of the guys last year that Michigan worked in the rotation, and now he's a starter this year, and hopefully he's going to be a lot better. Right? Jair Hill was not a starter on the national championship team 2 years ago, but they worked him in last year. He became that solid number 2 guy. Zeke Berry, a guy that stepped up when Will Johnson went down. He's back. Rod Moore had suffered the ACL in the spring game last year. He came back to Michigan for one final season. And I think Michigan's really good this year. I think they're competing for a Big Ten title. I think they're competing for a national title. That's how good this Michigan team is. Plus, you bring back Dominic Zavada, one of the best kickers in college football. Would have been perfect if you brought back Tommy Doman, but, well, no, that's not going to happen. I've looked at this schedule so many times that I'm just going to tell you how many losses I give Michigan. Lose to Oklahoma, lose to Nebraska. No more losses after that. There are other tough teams. Obviously Ohio State, obviously USC, but Oklahoma, Nebraska, 2 of the best teams. Those are your 2 toughest games. 2 of the best teams in the country right now. Those are, I think, 2 closely ranked opponents, but Michigan's really good, man. And the only reason I have them losing at Nebraska is because Sherrone Moore's not going to be coaching that game. That's the only reason. I think if Sherrone Moore was coaching, and I have them losing to Oklahoma because that's a night game under the lights. That's going to be difficult to win. And I have them losing to Nebraska because Sherrone Moore won't be coaching that game. But they can still win it. Okay, 13 is Florida. I was reading a report the other day when I was making this list that DJ Lagway got injured again. Ridiculous. But he should be healthy, and I trust that he'll be healthy. But this is one of the best offenses in college football. They returned 8 starters, including 4 on the offensive line, their quarterback, and their superstar wide receiver, Eugene Wilson. the third, the redshirt sophomore, and the defensive line looks really good. This defensive line might be one of the best in college football. You have Tyreek Sapp, Caleb Banks on the interior. Secondary, I would not advise. This team is really good, and they have the potential to make a run in the SEC championship. I think this is the year that Florida potentially beats Georgia. I already talked about the Georgia-Florida game. Florida-Miami. Florida. LSU-Florida. You have to get that one. But you face Texas, like I mentioned, Georgia. You go to Ole Miss. And then you host, who can forget, I took about at Texas A&M. And then you host Tennessee before the last game of the year against Florida State. All winnable games. Florida really turned it around last year, and if Billy Napier wants to save his job, I think the ceiling for Florida this year, make the playoff. That's the ceiling. I think the ceiling for Billy Napier is you win a playoff game. The floor is you make the SEC championship. This team is too good, and this schedule is too easy. The SEC is going to be a mystery this year. SEC is going to be a mystery. Number 12 out of Arizona State. This is the best team in the Big 12. The only thing that I think really, they return the most starters in college football with 16. 17 returning starters, excuse me. Arizona State has 17 or 16 returning starters. The most in the country. The team ranked above them has the second most. I think they bring back a lot of starters as well. The team ranked above them. But the reason why they're 12 and not 11 is because of Cam Scatterbo and what he did for this team last year. This team should be really good. They should be really good. Sam Levitt, turning quarterback. So this team should be really good. Defense. Oh my God, this defense looks like it was better than it was last year. They only lost 2 games. At Texas Tech, they lose another regular season game. And then the playoff game against Texas. So Arizona State's really good. And but like I said, only concern is Cam Scatterbo. This Scatterbo was the offense last year. He was the offense. The offense ran through Scatterbo, and I think once you took him out of the game, you have an opportunity to win. Just like they did last year with like Texas did, took him out of the game. Second half of the game, look how good Arizona State is now. Right? They're running the football effectively, and they've gotten Cam Scatterbo involved. These are your 2 toughest games, and I think everything else is winnable. You host Texas Tech. This is the team that beat you last year. This is a ranked team. And at Iowa State, rematch of Big 12 championship game. Going to be tough for Arizona State. Also going to be tough for Iowa State, for their home team. Tough for both teams. It's going to be a good game to watch, though, in early November. You want to talk about football? Talk about that game. 11. Hot take. Is Illinois back? No, I'm kidding. They were never here, but they're back. They're really good. 10 wins, including 4 straight to close out their season. Wins against just, oh my God, cake-soft teams. Michigan State. Could be competitive this year. We don't know. Rutgers, Northwestern, and South Carolina. It's a pretty easy end to the season. And then I look at the schedule at Indiana and versus Ohio State. Those are your only games. Obviously, you host USC, which we mentioned earlier in the show. But there's a good chance that Illinois is the runner-up in the Big Ten this year, and with good reason. This team returns all 5 of their starters. Listen to this. Illinois returns 16 returning starters, including 5 offensive linemen, their tight end, their quarterback, Luke Altmaier, and the running back, Aiden Loftery. Defensively, they returned back their entire secondary and in 2 linebackers, Gabe Jackus, the outside linebacker, I hope I pronounced that right, and Dylan Ryzik, the linebacker. This team is really good, and they had 10 wins last year. They returned back a lot of the starters from that team. Illinois is really good. Really good. And like I said, schedule-wise, this is one of the easiest schedules we're going to talk about today. One of the easiest. We're getting inside the top 10. And this may be where the controversy starts. I've already had some controversy. But if you thought that everything was accurate, which I don't think a lot of people will agree with, number 10 is definitely... This top 10 is definitely controversial. Oh boy. Number 10, Miami Hurricanes. Why? Because 10-win year last year. Really good. And you bring back your quarterback and you get Carson Beck out of the portal. And I think that Carson Beck came back because he understood how difficult it would be for him to get drafted. Yet, some people still think he'd be drafted over Shedeur Sanders. That's your one joke of the episode. I don't think he would be, though. I think Shedeur gets drafted before Carson Beck. I just don't understand, I just don't understand kind of why he would think that going to the draft was a good idea. But Miami, they get an offensive rebrand. It starts with Carson Beck. Could be better. The expectations, though, for the offense are high because this was the number 1 offense in 2024. So the expectations, there's no margin for error. There's no margin for error. And the defense was one of the worst in college football last year. I mean, you want to talk about, listen to this. Miami's toughest games came to Virginia Tech, where they allowed 30 points. Cal, they allowed 38. Louisville, they allowed 45. Duke, they allowed 31. Lost to Georgia Tech, they allowed 28 in that game. At Syracuse, where they gave up 42 points in the final game of the season. Against Iowa State, where they also gave up 42 points. This was one of the worst defensive units in the year. So it makes sense for Miami to go to kind of hit the portal hard, to try to get back some of those players, try to improve this defense. Allowed 30 or more points in 5 of 8 ACC games last year. They were 68th in the nation in total points per game. Terrible. But this team has a completely new look defensively. They rebranded. So they brought in a ton of different coaches, new coaches. And so this team looks, I think they could be good. Week 1, Notre Dame, that's going to be a banger of a game. I think it's Monday night. No, Sunday. It's a Sunday game. So, Sunday game. You have Florida at home. Rest of the schedule is smooth sailing until you go to SMU. And then after that, easy schedule. Miami could be the best team in Florida this year. Especially with another DJ Lagway injury. At number 9, I have Oregon. If you talk to me about putting Oregon or ranking Oregon higher, you're crazy. Because, no, I'm not putting Oregon higher. Although they did get, the offense looks good, specifically Kenyon Sadiq, Dante Moore, and Mekhi Hughes. Evan Stewart tore his ACL, so he's going to be out. They got Gary Bryant, transfer. Malik Benson, transfer. DeCarrion Moore, freshman, looks really good, 5-star. So I like the Oregon offense. The defense, on the other hand, could use a lot of work. This was a strength of Oregon last year. Mateo Uyunglele, hope I'm saying that right. Mateo Uyunglele returns. Bryce Botcher returns. Julio Florence returns. Tyum Tootie returns. So this defense didn't really give up 30 points much. They did, I believe, they gave up more than 30 points 3 times last year, and it was in their 3 toughest games. Actually, they gave up 30 points 4 times last year. It was in their 4 toughest games. Boise State, the first time they played Ohio State. Penn State, Ohio State, the last game of the year. So, Oregon's defense is one of the best units, and it's hard to build back from that. The 2 teams I put ahead of them at 7 and 8, potentially 6, have better defenses than Oregon right now. So we're going to look at number 8, LSU. I love LSU this year, man. I think LSU could win the national championship. I do. LSU, man. God, just talking about this team gets me excited. What's not to like about this team? Maybe the tight end position. I like everything about this team. I'm going to start with the receiving core, though. Receiving-wise, you got 5 really good starting wide receivers. Aaron Anderson, Darian Brown, Nick Anderson, transfer from Oklahoma, we talked about earlier. Chris Hilton Jr., who's already there last year, and Xavier Thomas. You've got Garrett Nussmeier, the starting quarterback, and Caden Durham, who might be the best running back on the roster last year. He's only a sophomore, but he's still really, really good. Defensively, oh my God. You're going to lose Harold Perkins Jr. Or, no, you don't lose Harold Perkins Jr. You lose, Swanson. I forgot his name. And you bring in Patrick Payton to go along with that Harold Perkins Jr. He's going to play the star position, which is kind of a linebacker, kind of a safety position. Bring back the leader of this defensive unit, Whit Weeks. Really good. And then the secondary is also really good. So, looking at the schedule, week 1 at Clemson could be rough. That could be maybe their only loss of the season. Potential losses could come at Texas A&M, which they host this year, which is why I don't think they'll lose. And at Alabama. 2 toughest games this year. Or 3 toughest games this year, I guess. Not worried about Florida at home. Not worried about Texas A&M at home. But those road games, and especially the last one of the year at Oklahoma, I think those games could get you. Especially considering college teams don't really rest starters in the last week of the season because they're all playing for like seeding or conference championship or something. Okay, so the reason why I had LSU at 8 is because the team I have at 7 has a better defense than them, and that's Alabama. Lose your quarterback, but I don't think anyone can talk about Alabama without talking about Ryan Williams. So I'm just going to talk about him for a short period. Ryan Williams is really good to bring him back, and hopefully he doesn't transfer out of this program, because if he does, Alabama receiving core will be in trouble. Now, we talk about LSU being wide receiver U, Ohio State potentially. Well, I'm going to just be honest with you. LSU is wide receiver U. Ohio State is a close second. You want to talk about third? Alabama. All the receivers that they put on the field in the 2019 game against LSU, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, only 3 of those receivers have found success in the NFL, and one of them was really good before something happened. But yeah, Alabama returned 3 offensive linemen, their running back, 2 wide receivers, but the defense is where things kick up a notch. Defensive line looks really good. Q Rusaw, Tim Keenan, LT Overton. Deontay Lawson is a middle linebacker. Justin Jefferson, not the same Justin Jefferson. Devontae Smith transferred out, but it's cool because really you got Damani Jackson and Xavier Brown back, and Xavier Brown stepped up last year. He had a crucial role in Alabama, with Alabama last year. So, yeah, love Xavier Brown because he stepped up into that big role. Bray Hubbard, Keon Sapp, Alabama. Team a lot of people aren't really talking about to make some hype. Coming up, the national championship runner-ups at 6, Notre Dame. People talk about Notre Dame, they talk about one of the best backfields in all of college football, which is true. Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Prince, two of the best backs in college football. But I think there's one team that I haven't quite mentioned yet with a better run game than them. We talked, a lot of the talk last year about Notre Dame is how inexperienced their offensive line was. They returned 4 starters from last year, including freshman left tackle and the freshman center that started the Texas A&M game. But I think we're going to see Notre Dame. They're going to be more human this year. They start the year at Miami. Okay. Texas A&M's going to be tough. They come to your place. It's going to be tough for both sides. Boise State at home. USC at home. The end of the year at Stanford. That's not really a tough game. But I will say I'm disappointed. Notre Dame this year. No Shamrock Series game. I'm sure everyone will be sad about that. Especially me. But Anthony Knapp, that left tackle that came back. But there's a quarterback competition going on right now. I think it's going to be C.J. Carr that's going to start the year. If not, Kenny Minchey also looks really good. So we'll have to see who wins that battle between the two teams. Between those two players, excuse me. Number 5, I got Clemson. I did this poll in July, and when I did it, I had Clemson as the number 4 team in the country. And I mean, this team looks really good. For the first time ever, Clemson actually went into the portal and they picked up someone out of the portal. I don't know his name, but they picked someone up out of the portal. But Cade Klubnik, and they have the 3 wide receivers. They return 4 starting offensive linemen, 3 wide receivers, and their quarterback. Remember what I said about quarterbacks earlier on in the show. But Clemson this year has national championship aspirations. And I think that's the ceiling. The ceiling is you win the national championship. The floor, you at least make the playoff. I don't think the floor is you win the ACC, you want to play. No. You at least, the floor, I think you at least win a playoff game. You guys forget about what I just said about making the playoff. You at least win a playoff game. That's the floor. Below the floor is basically every little thing that can kind of turn up the heat on the Dabo Swinney hot seat. But defensive line, TJ Parker, Peter Woods, too good. Way Woodaz, Sammy Brown, also really good. Defense was a weakness last year for Clemson. But this year they have the potential to have a really good defense. Number 4, the Georgia Bulldogs. There's a little pause so that you could guess. I think with Georgia they're going to have trouble running the football this year. I expect Nate Frazier to kind of carry the running game, but there was more than one option last year. You had Cash Jones, you had Robinson, Trevor Etienne, So you had options, right? The running game this year doesn't really look promising. Gunnar Stockton's going to step into the role as the starting quarterback. I think Gunnar Stockton as the starter is potentially what it could take for Georgia to be a national championship team. I think the ceiling for Georgia this year is you make the national champ or you win it all. The floor, you make it. Can't miss the national championship this year, otherwise eyebrows are going to be raised. Defense looks really good. Schedule-wise, this might be another easy schedule. I think Florida's going to be tough. You get Alabama at home, and Texas at home. And then Georgia Tech at Mercedes-Benz. So this is an easy schedule for Georgia. One of the easiest schedules in the country. And the receiver room looks nice with guys like London Humphreys, Colby Young, Noah Thomas, and I haven't even talked about the big boys yet, Dylan Bell, Zachariah Branch. Georgia could be really good this year. Number 3, pains me to say this, Ohio State. They returned 3 offensive linemen, 2 receivers, Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith, who everybody keeps talking about for some reason. Mylan Grant and Brandon Innish should step into the 3rd wide receiver role. Defensively, this team looks okay. Matt Patricia, the NFL, is an NFL head coach who struggled as an offensive coordinator, but a defensive coordinator, I think, is something that he is going to be good at. He's better as a defensive coordinator than an offensive coordinator. So, yes. Ohio State is number 3. I don't want to talk about this team much longer. No losable games except for week 1 against Texas at home and then at Michigan. 2 losses for Ohio State because I don't like Ohio State. Number 2. This is the highest rank that this team has been that I've ever seen in my lifetime. Penn State. Really good. They return 3 offensive linemen and both their running backs. Drew Aller, their quarterback. It's going to be tough to replace Tyler Warren and some of the receivers that transferred out of the program, but you bring in Caden Sanders, who's already there, Liam Clifford, and Trevor Pena. So this Penn State team, in my opinion, is still really, really good, and might be one of the best offenses in the country. I haven't even talked about defenses. Abdul Carter moves on to the NFL. So what? Danny Dennis Sutton is going to come for your quarterback. Tony Rojas, AJ Harris. Defense looks really good, man. Really good. And the number 1 team in college football following this offseason, the Texas Longhorns. Why is Texas so good? I think it's more than just Arch Manning. That's for sure. This is a really good receiving core and Ryan Wingo and DeAndre Moore. The running back game, oh my God, how good is this backfield? Quatravion Wisner and CJ Baxter. Offensive line could be a problem though, especially week 1. You're going to Columbus. But I think they'll have things sorted out by the time they play Oklahoma. Not to mention you go to Florida and to Georgia this year, but you host Texas A&M at your place. And the defensively, this looks really good. Although the secondary is a strength this year. I can't remember if it was their defensive line or their secondary that might be good. It might have been their linebacker core. But overall, man, Texas is back. Back-to-back years they made the college football playoff semifinal round. A lot of people wanted Arch Manning to start last year. I think that his time is now. We shouldn't have rushed Arch into the spotlight, but now is the time for Arch to take over as the Texas quarterback. I think that he's going to be really good in that role. All right, so just to recap, honorable mentions for this year in order: go USC, Louisville, BYU, Utah, and Nebraska. 25-1, Boise State at 25, Texas Tech 24, Ole Miss 23, SMU 22, Tennessee at 21, Oklahoma at 20, Indiana at 19, Iowa State at 18, Texas A&M at 17, Kansas State at 16, South Carolina at 15, Michigan at 14, Florida at 13, Arizona State at 12, Illinois at 11, Miami at 10, Oregon at 9, LSU at 8, Alabama at 7, Notre Dame at 6, Clemson at 5, Georgia at 4, Ohio State at 3, Penn State at 2, and Texas is the number 1 team in college football. All right. Today's episode was a little long, but if you made it to the end, I appreciate you. Leave a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to tune into the next episode of the Jaxon Show. And as always, bring a friend.